Welcome to another Numismatic Notes with Benjamin. I am Benjamin, and before I get into my deep dive into a single banknote tonight, I wanted to just point out that I was somewhat inspired to do this banknote because I'm hoping it's a bookend of sorts. I'm doing a banknote video on 1,000 rials of Iran, and I'm showing what the government that ousted the Shah did in their extreme disregard for the Shah and how they wanted to keep people from, I don't know, appreciating what the Shah had done and just ridding him from the public life of Iran. And here we are at the end of this potential government of Iran, and the same government that got rid of the Shah. The people might be very close to getting rid of themselves and the son of the Shah coming back. That's as political as I want to be, and now let's get on with the video. Tonight's video is, like I said, 1,000 rials of Iran, and it shows the former Shah Pahlavi, on the face of this banknote, and as the watermark on the left of this banknote. Now, there's quite a lot going on this banknote. It is a predominantly brown and green banknote, a little bit of yellows there, and some peaches perhaps. And it measures about 160 by 77 millimeters, and it's on a paper substrate. Now, I use numista.com, Wikipedia, and a little bit of the banknote book, although I don't like using the banknote book because it's not as popular as Krause, nor as widespread, and it costs close to $100 a year, and there is absolutely no hard copy that you have access or that you own. So aside from that, let's just get back to the note. This note was created and printed by Delarue, and it catalogs. Are you ready for this? This note, by the time I'm done with it, will catalog pick 105, and then pick 115, and then finally pick 125. And you'll see why it has 3 different pick numbers as we move on. This banknote has been demonetized. I didn't dig too deep, but I don't know exactly when this note was introduced. Perhaps one of our listeners will know a little bit. Now let's get into the security features of this note. Here in this, in between the watermark of the Shah and this engraving of the Shah, we have a winged bull, and so this could also be on my cow videos. We also have some fantastic lathe work that encircles the denomination here in this corner, and then, you know, around and throughout the margins of the note there's additional lathe work that is quite impressive. There are red Arabic serial numbers, not just here and here, but also here and here. So it's pretty interesting to see 4 sets of serial numbers on a banknote. There are fractional prefixes here, 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 and here. And then there are also going to be regular prefixes on certain forms of the notes when you see them as well. There is a security thread. You can even see kind of the security thread right here. And on the pick 105 and 115, it is lettered. But on the pick 125, it is plain and shows up yellow on UV. So let's go ahead and let's take a look on the rest of the features of this note. Here we have Shah Pahlavi, or Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi, in military uniform. He was born on the 26th of October of 1919. He was one of twins, and he died on the 27th of July in 1980. And for me, it was interesting because when I was a visitor to Egypt, I did get to go to the mosque where he was buried, and strangely enough, not in the same mosque necessarily, but his father was also at one point buried in Egypt as well. And I assume that once the Ayatollahs are gone, if that's to happen, that Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi will be reinterred in the country of his birth. Now let's take a look at the back of the note. The back of the note, I don't have much on. It just shows the tomb of Hafez, which can be found in Shiraz. And here you can still see the security thread. Here is the watermark area of the note. And there is the winged bull. Now, when you hold this winged bull up to the light, it actually forms a offset register. And I've never been successful in showing anybody that offset register, but let's see. You see whenever I hold the light up to it, how things on the back line up with it perfectly, and you can see more detail and color. That's the purpose of an offset register. And then, of course, you see the young image of the Shah looking to the right, and you see how it contrasts with the Shah. That wasn't too bad, I guess. But it's a beautiful, almost bucolic scene here on the back of this note, and I think it's kind of nice. It's a lovely little pavilion. I think there's a fountain in the middle of that pavilion. But there's definitely landscaping, and it's a beautiful scene. All right, so let's see if we can step back in time. We know that the Shah was the power, and he held most of the power whenever he was in Iran. And while he did some things that the people liked, he did a lot of things that angered a lot of people, especially people of a religious bent. And I can only imagine what the United States would be like if Baptist or an Assembly of God person got into power. Love them all, but I think they have a place in religion and a church, and not necessarily a place in government. And unfortunately, Iran has experimented with their religious authority being the national authority, and it hasn't been good for the world. We have people of God supporting terrorism all over the world, and it's just tragic. Now, when this government took over from the Shah, they were interested in obliterating the Shah from public life. So very quickly they tore down all of his statues, and they got rid of any painted images or artwork from offices. They just did what they could, but they didn't really have the money to completely replace the currency system. So in Iran, what they did to get rid of the Shah was this. They created a special arabesque that was different for every denomination of the banknote, and they used it to completely obliterate the Shah's portrait here on the right. You can't even see his uniform. I mean, if you really look, you can see everything, but the purpose was to just have him removed from the banknotes entirely. And this particular overprint is overprint G, and it was designed to not go all the way down so that they could leave the serial number exposed on this note. And you see on this note, it's the same note as the previous note. It's just same serial number, and it has, fractional prefixes. It just has the Shah over here. But the people were like, oh goodness, so we've gotten rid of the Shah, huh? Then can you explain why the Shah is still on our notes over here? So they went back to the drawing board and were like, what can we do now? So they came out with a third version of the note. This version of the note still had the arabesque, but on the far right, they attempted to obliterate the watermark by adding a calligraphy over the watermark that translates to Jamhuriya Islamiyya Iran, or the Islamic Republic of Iran. And this came in a couple of varieties. This came with a black circle and the calligraphy in white, or in negative, and then it came with just the calligraphy in black and the background in negative. But on this note, you can't look at this note from this side and tell that the Shah had anything to do with it, except that you knew it was hiding something. On this side, I assume you could still see the Shah, but most people aren't walking around with little high-powered flashlights. Let's see what we can see. There's a little bit of the Shah there, but he's completely obliterated with words explaining this as the Islamic Republic of Iran. So these notes track a sadness for the Shah, and perhaps in the intervening years, a sadness for a lot of the people of Iran, and definitely the people who they have fought with, whether it's Iraq and their devastating war, whether it's what they've done to Syria, Lebanon, perhaps even Egypt, and definitely in Israel. among other places. It would be truly wonderful if a civilization as old and as magnificent as that of Iran was able to join the nations and open up their beautiful country to tourism. I know I would love to go to Damavand or visit Persepolis.